classmates who are unable to be here. And then for coming live today, I'll add an extra credit point to your Class Connect too, so that I really appreciate you coming here. So here's our virtual class expectations we view at the beginning of each class. You all do a perfect job with these, so I will move on to the icebreaker question today, which is, what is your favorite candy bar? And then you can just type that in the chat. So what is your favorite candy bar? If I had to pick between the ones up here, I would probably pick a Kit Kat bar. I really like Kit Kats for like a chocolate bar, but I also really like Ghirardelli chocolate too. So like the little squares, those are some of my favorite candies. Oh, Rose, you like Kit Kats too a lot? And then Bobby, Twix or Snickers. Awesome. Well, thank you too for sharing. So here is our agenda today. We just did the icebreaker question, and then we're going to work on lesson 15.03 together, Minnesota during the 1920s. And then that one is located in our quarter 4, week 7 folder. So I'll open that up right now, and then you can pull that up on your end. Okay, so it should now be there. So you go down to our Minnesota Studies page, and then you're going to go down to the last folder, so this week, and then you're looking for Minnesota during the 1920s assignment. And then let me know when you two are there and ready to go. Okay, and let me know when you're ready to get started. You ready, Rose? Yep. And then Bobby, do you need a little more time?
I think I should be ready now.
Okay, perfect. So I'll start sharing my screen here again. So this is what the assignment looks like. We're doing lesson 15.03, Minnesota during the 1920s, and this is Minnesota Studies 6. Here are the directions. View the images and read paragraphs on slides number 4 through 6 and answer the questions below each image. On slide number 7, we will be listening to an MN90 podcast and answer the question based on what you heard. And then to finish the assignment, you will write on slide 8 and what story you found the most interesting and why. Are you two ready to get started? Thank you, Rose. Bobby, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, do either of you want to read the learning targets quick before we get started? Okay, Rose, you can read.
I can describe the Jazz Age and lifestyle changes that occurred during this era. I can explain the impact of prohibition on Minnesota and the U.S. I can explain recovery efforts made by the local and national government during the Great Depression.
Perfect. And then just so you know, the word here in the second one is prohibition, but no worries on that. And then we have somebody who joined us here, so I'm just going to get them where we are. So go to the Minnesota Studies folder, And then you are going to scroll down to the bottom where it says Q4, Week 7 folder, the Great Depression. And then it is lesson 15.03, Minnesota during the 1920s. Tiberius, do you have any questions on that? No. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to move on to slide number 4 here. And then we're going to answer these 2 questions. Define avant-garde, and then do you think you would enjoy the Jazz Age? Why or why not? So I'll read this slide. So this one is about Kilmarnock Books. So the Kilmarnock bookstore in downtown St. Paul brought writers and artists together at the dawn of the Jazz Age and helped inspire some of the best work of their careers. Nearly 100 years later, the Twin Cities are considered among the most literary cities in the United States. It was the Jazz Age, a time of great change and creativity, and the Kilmarnock's regulars, particularly Fitzgerald, captured its avant-garde spirit. Fitzgerald frequently visited Kilmarnock after working in his secret writing room up the street. He passed through the sales room, where books were arranged by color, not author, title, or subject, to the back room. There, he joined other writers around the fireplace, drinking tea, smoking cigars, and discussing books. Soon he began writing short stories series and explored ideas he would develop more fully in The Great Gatsby. Okay, so let's look up quick avant-garde. Okay, so this means new and unusual or experimental ideas, especially in the arts or people introducing them. So for that definition, you can write new and unusual ideas in the arts. Okay, so you'll be answering those 2 questions, and then let me know when you're ready to move on to slide number 5. Yes, Rose.
I'm not able to type in the document.
Oh no, you're not able to type into your document?
No.
Okay, what's happening when you try to type in it?
Like, I want to click the space, but it just goes up. It doesn't, like, type anything.
Here, I will share my copy with you. So after class, we can kind of tinker with it and you can share your screen with me and show me what's going on. And then at least you have the answers this way. Does that
Okay.
work?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Tiberius, are you ready to move on to then? Not yet. Okay, no worries. I'll just get slide 5 ready and then we'll wait a minute here. And then Rose, do you want to read one of the paragraphs on slide number 5 or yeah, slide 5 when we get started?
Sure.
Okay. And then Bobby and Tiberius, would either of you like to read two today or just me and Rose?
I can try reading one of the paragraphs.
Okay, was that Bobby?
Yep.
Perfect. So what I'll have you do is I'll have Rose read this first one and then you'll read the second one when we start.
Okay.
Sound good? Awesome. Thank you.
Minnesota farmers enjoyed a period of prosperity in the 1910s that continued through World War I. Encouraged by the U.S. government to increase production, farmers took out loans to buy more land and invest in new equipment. As war-torn countries recovered, the demand for U.S. exports fell, and land values and prices for commodities dropped. Farmers found it hard to repay their loans, a situation worsened by the Great Depression and the drought years that followed.
Perfect. And then Bobby, I'll have you start here in just a minute. I'm just going to highlight some important things from this paragraph quick. And I'll let you know when to start here. Whoop, I want it to be a darker color. There we go. Okay, Bobby, you can start whenever you're ready.
The west central counties of Minnesota suffered from the severe drought conditions of 1933 to 1934. A combination of poor farming methods and drought caused extensive soil erosion. A grasshopper infestation compounded crop losses in many western counties.
Okay, so how do we think that Minnesotans were affected by this agricultural depression? What do we think? And if you want to write your answer in the chat or if you want to raise your hand, either option works. Yep. Okay. So I see in the chat, Bobby wrote grasshopper infestation caused crop losses. Yep. So on top of that, we could also talk about the poor farming methods and then the drought too. Okay. I'm going to take part of this here. Okay, so I took part of Tiberius's answer here. So grasshopper infestation along with soil erosion made farming very hard with the drought and poor farming methods. And then I'm going to add on here Okay, so after World War I, the demand for U.S. exports fell, so Minnesotans had a hard time repaying their loans. So both of those were really important. I'm just going to change the font here, and then I'll put that into the chat. Okay, so that is in the chat now. Okay, and then are we ready to move on to slide number 6? Okay, thank you. So I will read the first one here, and then I'll take a volunteer for the second one. So writers of the 18th Amendment to the Constitution took a little more than 100 words to prohibit the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcoholic beverages. It fell to Minnesota Congressman Andrew Volstead to write the regulations and rules for the enforcement. The 12,000 word Volstead Act remained in effect for the 13 years from 1920 until Prohibition was repealed in 1933. And then does anybody want to read this one right here? Sure, Rose, you can get started.
Prohibition was enforced by the Volstead Act, transformed American streets, businesses, and social life. In Little Falls, the town's 14 saloons closed overnight, with some of the dealers now selling soft drinks. In the Twin Cities, the Salvation Army turned some closed beer parlors into canteens for the entertainment of returned soldiers and sailors. Go-getter businessmen quickly recognized the business opportunities in non-alcoholic beverages, ice cream sundaes, and sodas. National companies such as IBC and A&W were founded in 1919 as a result of prohibition.
Perfect. So the questions here that you're going to be answering right now is, did you know that popular soda companies such as A&W and IBC were created as a result of prohibition? And then the last question is, have you had IBC, A&W, or 1919 root beer before? Do you enjoy root beer? So you can answer those ones right now. Okay, and then when you're done with slide number 6, let me know and we'll move on to slide number 7. Okay, so slide number 7 here, and you can always go back to slide number 6 if you need a little more time after, is on Floyd B. Olson. He was a Minnesota governor, and we're going to listen to his impact during the Great Depression. So what impact did Floyd Olson have on Minnesotans during the Great Depressions, and how did he help?
Welcome to MN90, Minnesota History in 90 Seconds.
Brother, can you spare a dime?
During these tough economic times, sometimes we forget that previous generations also struggled. 80 years ago, during the Great Depression, Minnesotans were faced with breadlines, farm foreclosures, and widespread unemployment. In 1930, during such a difficult time in the country's history, Minnesota elected its first Farmer Labor Party governor, Floyd B. Olson.
Olson was really a man of the people.
Historian Brian Horrigan says Olson became the hero Minnesotans were searching for.
He was the great communicator. Here was a man who inspired people, who gave people hope and confidence. He really helped people believe that there was light at the end of the tunnel.
Olson served 3 two-year terms as Minnesota's governor. He successfully fought for unemployment relief, the enactment of a sales tax, and a moratorium on farm foreclosures. Olson's few detractors called him a socialist, but he didn't seem to mind the label. Olson maintained a belief in the power of government to do good for the greatest number of people. Olson died in office from stomach cancer in 1936. He was 44 years old.
MN90 is a co-production of the Minnesota Historical Society.
Okay, so what impact did Floyd Olson have on Minnesotans during the Great Depressions, and how did he help? What do we think? I kind of wrote some keywords down as we were listening. So at the time, a lot of Minnesotans were struggling with unemployment and were relying on breadlines. And he was considered a hero and inspired many people. And he provided unemployment relief. He put a pause on farm foreclosures. And there was one more thing, and I missed it. So I'm going to re-listen to that here quick.
Detractors called him a socialist, but as Minnesota's governor, he successfully fought for unemployment relief, the enactment of a sales tax.
The enactment of a sales tax. Okay, perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to write is Minnesotans were struggling with unemployment. He provided unemployment relief, put a pause on, and enacted okay, so this is a good answer for slide number 7 there. Oh, and then we got another one in the chat. He fought for Minnesota people if it came to unemployment, breadlines, or anything. Perfect. That's a great response. So I put my response that I had there in the chat. Did it come through? There we go. I see it now. And then the last slide to finish up here is which story did you enjoy learning about? Why? And your response should be 2 to 3 sentences. So I'm going to end the recording now. There we go. Did it? Nope. It